The NFL draft is upon us, 3 days away, and Aaron Rodgers is officially a New York Jet. I'm really freaking annoyed because I just got halfway through this mock draft, and I forgot that the guys at PFF absolutely hate Tyree Wilson, an executive decision to move him down to rank 28 on their board. So I completely forgot about him, and dude, it's so frustrating. That is so, because just because the dude with the curly hair hates, he said he wouldn't take him in the first round. They moved him all the way down to pick 28. The Texans are reportedly thinking about taking Tyree Wilson over Will Anderson. That is stupid that the PFF guys moved him that far. Anyways, we're doing this draft live because I haven't done a draft live yet, and there will be trades. The other thing is I will be posting my positional rankings on Instagram. So make sure you follow the Instagram right there. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and get this mock draft. I'm going to fly through this a little bit faster than I did the first time. The first pick is going to be Bryce Young. This is not, we're going to do one more mock draft on Wednesday. So this is just not a predictive one. The predictive one is coming Wednesday. But pick one is Bryce Young. I thought that it was smoke that the Panthers wanted Bryce Young before CJ Stroud basically became a legal moron by scoring an 18% on his S2 test. That is so bad. And the S2 is a very good indicator of how you're going to perform in the NFL. I don't know if that's the lowest score of all time, but that is really, really bad. And why I thought it was smoke was because the Panthers have been linked to Stroud all along, and the Texans were reportedly not going to draft a quarterback unless they could take Young. So I thought that the Panthers all of a sudden were in on Young so that they could swap with the Texans, still get Stroud, and recover some draft capital. But apparently Bryce Young, CJ Stroud is a moron. So if you don't know what the S2 test is, it basically tests your cognitive ability to basically read defenses and process. That's kind of what it is. And it's a very good indicator of how you're going to pan out in the NFL. It's not some sort of, it's not like the combine. Like, it actually does matter a lot. But at pick 2, the Texans, this is where it gets tricky because the Texans could move back. But they're also heavily linked to Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson. All the way down here, I picked rank 28 because the PFF guys are dumb. They're not dumb, but I think it's really dumb to to make this point so profoundly that you had to move Tyree Wilson that far down. Anyway, I really don't think the Texans are going to go quarterback unless they go Levis. And it's so funny because the draft has come full circle at this point. Levis is back up to the top of draft boards. He's back up to the top of quarterback boards. Stroud is down at the bottom, and Anthony Richardson is still the wild card. So life comes full circle, I guess. But anyway, pick 2. We're going to go with Will Anderson. I think that D'Amico Ryans sees Will Anderson as a cornerstone defensive piece. I also think they have very clearly stated there's no pressure on us to take a quarterback this year. There's a scenario where they could trade back up using pick 12 for Anthony Richardson if he fell, but I don't think Anthony Richardson is the player to fall. I don't think he's the quarterback that falls. I think it's actually going to be Stroud. Peter King said on his podcast today or yesterday that CJ Stroud is no longer a lock to go top 7. And he's been calling people. He said very specifically, this is the time of year where we're a week away. He's calling people. He's calling executives. He's calling general managers. What are you seeing? What do you think? Blah, 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 blah. So I don't think he's bluffing with this. I think it's very realistic that Stroud falls out of the top 7. And I think that the other report or rumor is that the Vikings are very much so in on Will Levis. Very in on him. So because this isn't predictive and I want to explore a different draft avenue that we haven't done in the past, we're going to have the Vikings trade up to pick 3. I'm not going to go over draft compensation, but I would imagine it would look something like this. To move this far up, it's going to cost a lot. So maybe a 4th next year as well. But it would be a steep price. So we're just going to force this. But definitely at least these 2. 100%, you're getting 2 first-rounders for that. So Levis is coming off the board at pick 3. Pick 4 is the Colts. I think that if it fell this way, because the Colts are very much so in on Levis, there's also that route where I think the safest route for Arizona is to trade back with Indianapolis, because you're probably going to force their hand because you're going to have calls from other teams. You're going to say, give us a first, and it's yours. So you're basically getting a first plus Jalen Carter. And you still get Jalen Carter, and the Colts get their guy. But if you go with the Vikings, you're losing a lot. You're losing out on Jalen Carter. You're losing out on Will Anderson potentially. You're losing out on Devin Witherspoon, Gonzalez. A lot of these top-end guys, but you're gaining a lot of capital for down the road. So it really, I think because of where the Cardinals are at, and they're kind of in a full rebuild, besides having Kyler, like, it would, for me, it makes sense to go deeper, because you're only going to get more dart throws for later on, and potentially in this draft. So, Colts at pick 4. I think if it fell this way, they're going to take Richardson. I really don't think Stroud is a lock to go top 7 anymore. Definitely not top 5. That S2 test is a big, big deal. I don't know if the S2, his 18% out of 100 is the lowest all time, but it is really, really bad. Like, it's really bad. Pick 5 is Seattle. I think if there's a scenario where Richardson falls to pick 5, they are 100% taking Richardson. Pete Carroll loves Anthony Richardson. And he did say, like, that we don't plan on picking this high again, because they're at this point where they're rounding out their roster. They have Geno. Geno would be a great mentor for a young quarterback who needs a young project quarterback like Anthony Richardson. I think Seattle is the most ideal spot, coach, roster, position. You don't have to start right away for Anthony Richardson to go into. 100%. If he's there and it's between him and Jalen Carter, I really think they would go Richardson over Jalen Carter, because we say that Jalen Carter is this generational guy. Like, these players don't come out. Like, we didn't have Keenan Williams, Dexter Lawrence. All these defensive linemen come out year after year after year. Like, we haven't even seen Jordan Davis play 100% of the snaps. Like, so, yes, Jalen Carter is going to be great, but, like, we have Kalijah Kancey in this class, who also is a pass rusher from the interior. But can Kalijah Kancey stop the run like Carter can? No, but, I mean, these players do come out every other year at least. They're not a rarity, I don't think. But we'll take Jalen Carter here at pick 5 to the Seattle Seahawks. Pick 6. I also think that the Seattle Seahawks have enough depth at edge. You have, you drafted, oh my God, what's his name? Boye Mafe in the second last year. You have depth at the position. You really need to work on the interior D-line. There's also depth at the position in the draft for the edge room. Pick 6 is Lions. You traded Jeff Okudah, RIP, love Jeff Okudah, and you cut someone whose name I'm forgetting. You're picking at pick 18. I don't think you need to go top 3. I don't think you need to take a corner here. I think you will take a corner in the first round. I don't know if it has to be at 5 or at 6, because you could put Aiden Hutchinson and pair him up with Tyree Wilson. And that is a very, very scary edge duo. I think that's the play, no matter what PFF says about him being ranked 28. That's insane. Pick 7 is the Raiders. And this is where it kind of gets tough, because I think this pick is corner. But with Stroud on the board, everything changes. Because Stroud seems to be a very system-dependent quarterback. And you see, like, Josh McDaniels linked to Mac Jones during the 2021 draft. Not Justin Fields, not Zach Wilson, not Trey Lance, Mac Jones. The Patriots were linked to Mac Jones the entire time. Same with the San Francisco 49ers. I think Stroud would succeed in a system like that, and he would be able to sit behind a very system-dependent quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo. And I also don't mean, like, I think when we say system quarterback as a negative, that's not totally accurate. Like, I think every quarterback needs the right system for them to succeed. Like, Jalen Hurts, before Sirianni put him in, built the offense around him and got him weapons, didn't look that great. Josh Allen, before they got him Stephon Diggs and he had time to, they built the system around Josh Allen, he didn't look that great. Daniel Jones, before they built the system around him, didn't look that great. Like, I don't think that... Now, there are players like Mac Jones, Jimmy Garoppolo, who can't do things outside of the system, but I don't think Stroud falls into that category necessarily, but I also think he's probably like 75-25. He can. You watch the Georgia game, he can do things outside the system. But now it's like, does he have the brain power to do things outside the system is the question. But anyway, pick 8 is the Falcons. We're trading this pick. I'm going to trade this pick with the Jets. Jets, big trade for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're done yet. You're going all in. We're not going to do the trade comp like I said. And you desperately need tackle. You need to protect Aaron Rodgers. I think you trade and go all in for Paris Johnson. Paris Johnson, one of the freakiest athletes in the class. Incredible footwork. You know the Bears are probably going to take him if he's there. He's definitely not making it past either the Titans or the Packers or the Patriots. You get Rodgers, you move up, you get your left tackle of the future, and you go all in this year. That's the only scenario I think is left for the Jets at this point. Like, you have to go all in this year. You have to get all the pieces in place to win this year because the window for Aaron Rodgers is already on its close. Like, you got him. There's no guarantee after year 2. There's no guarantee after year 1. Like, you got to go all in now. So I think the Jets are definitely in play to trade up for a tackle. We've seen the Jets be very aggressive in the draft as well. Last year with Jermaine Johnson. The year before that with Elijah Vera Tucker. I don't think them moving up for a tackle is out of the question. Bears at pick 9. We're going to go with Skoronski. This player reminds me a lot of Elijah Vera Tucker minus the size concerns. Can play anywhere on the line, tackle to tackle, guard to guard, center to center. But you put him wherever you need. If it doesn't work out, put him somewhere else. It'll work out somewhere. Eagles at pick 10. It would be hard for me to imagine the Eagles passing on Devin Witherspoon or Christian Gonzalez. But I really just think that Brian Branch is the best fit for the Eagles because they've gutted their safety room, and he's someone who you're developing for the future. And I'm someone who believes in positional value, but I'm also someone who thinks that to a certain extent, like the Eagles are ready to win now, they need a safety. Like, just take the best safety in the class. You also, like, safety is only going to become a more valuable position as the league becomes a more pass-happy league. And also, like, if you're looking at Brian Branch only as a free safety, as a safety player, like a player who plays safety, like, you're not looking at the full picture because he's also an elite nickel corner. He's also a phenomenal tackler. Like, he does so much more than just play safety. Look at Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton fell to 14. You redraft now, he's probably getting picked higher than pick 14. Derwin James is the same thing. Derwin James fell, I think, and because he was a safety, and he's one of the best players in that class. So I'm going to go ahead and take Brian Branch here. I know the Eagles typically go trenches in round 1, but you have 2 first-round picks, so we may go trenches later. So the Titans at pick 11, this is where we're going to make another trade. I think that with the Titans are kind of in limbo. Like, there's trade rumors around Derrick Henry that have been debunked, but I think there's still some legitimacy to them because I really don't know what the Titans are doing. You could go a lot of different routes. I think Devin Witherspoon here wouldn't be a bad option because you've been trying to draft a corner for so long that it makes sense. But your win now window has kind of closed, and if you trade Derrick Henry, you're tanking without saying you're tanking. Hassan Haskins isn't going to carry that offense. Treylon Burks could take a step, but him and Ryan Tannehill aren't going to carry that offense. Like, I think without Henry, the offense is dead, and it needs to be reworked. So I think there also was a report today on the Rich Eisen show that Karen Mara said that the Giants are going to do something crazy on draft night. I could see them trading up, and we're going to force the trade. Don't know what the trade comp would look like, but with the Giants at pick 11, there are a lot of options here. And I think the 3 options on the board are Witherspoon, who in Wink Martindale's system would be an absolute problem. You get Daniel Jones, a wide receiver 1, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, but maybe you want to address receiver later. Like I mentioned, it's a very deep class. Or Saquon's still not happy with his contract. He hasn't signed the franchise tag. He fumbled the bag during bye week. That nobody wants to bring that up. Bijan Robinson is here. You could trade Barkley, and let's just say you get a 2 and a 4 plus, and then you get Bijan, a center, a receiver, etc. It doesn't look bad by taking a running back in round 1. I think that taking Bijan at pick 11, like, you're probably not trading up for Bijan. That's just my opinion. You're taking him if he falls to you, which probably also doesn't happen. At pick 11, you have options like Christian Gonzalez, probably the best press man corner in the class. He's my quarterback 1. 1A and 1B to Devin Witherspoon. He can fit in wing scheme. Jackson Smith and Jigba. The question is, like, what do you do with Wandale? What do you do with Paris Campbell? What do you do with all these slot receivers you have on the roster? And I've said that it doesn't matter because Jackson Smith and Jigba immediately steps in and becomes the wide receiver 1, and you figure everybody else out. But this becomes suddenly a very, very interesting pick. And I truthfully do not know what I would do. Because this is tough, dude. It's really, in my head, it's between Witherspoon and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I think the point of you moving up this far is to leapfrog the Texans, who are probably taking Jackson Smith and Jigba. So we're going to go ahead and take JSN here at pick 11 to the New York Giants. Pick 12 is the Texans. And if Jackson Smith and Jigba is off the board, right, this pick becomes interesting because then it's like, all right, well, what do we want to address now? Witherspoon here is an absolute steal. You have Derek Stingley, and D'Amico Ryans is going to know how to use these players. It's not going to be like last year. Like, they're going to let Stingley play press man, and he's going to play a lot better this year than he did last year. Kalijah Cansey, the middle of the defense, is a huge issue. He fixes that. Myles Murphy, someone to pair up with Will Anderson off the edge if you want to double dip at edge. But personally, like, I think that Witherspoon here is, like, really too much to pass up, but I'm also blanking on, like, who your other corner is aside from Stingley. So we're going to take this is tough. I want to take Cansey. I think it's too high for Addison, and I think that it's too high for Zay. Although the reports are that Zay is going to go before Addison. Tough pick. It's a really tough pick. I think I would go with... Because it just feels weird passing on Witherspoon here. But I think I would go with Cansey. Just fix the D-line. Because now you have Anderson and Cansey. It's going to be in a division where really the only team with a quarterback is Trevor Lawrence. Having a good pass rush against bad quarterbacks is going to win you games. Like, and you could run the ball extremely well with Dameon Pierce. Like, I don't think you have to force the receiver pick there, especially since you have so many picks later in the draft. So we're going to go with Cansey there. Pick 13 is the Packers. Damn, dude, I think that Witherspoon is... Like, dude, it's weird he's falling this far. It's really weird that he's falling this far. But we're going to go ahead and take Myles Murphy. I think you need to fix... You need to get help on that D-line. And there's not really anything you could do there to help out Jordan Love except for draft a tight end, but it's such a deep tight end class, I don't think you need to force that pick. So we're going to go ahead and take Myles Murphy there, who I really don't see falling that far down the board. Excuse me, but Patriots at pick 14. You just got Aaron Rodgers in the division, Devin Witherspoon. I'm not going to talk too much about it. Falcons at pick 15. This is best case scenario because I think they want to take Bijan at pick 8. I hated that pick before the draft. Like back in December when people were saying, oh, Bijan's going to Atlanta. The only pick I hated more was Tampa Bay taking Bijan because that made no sense. They're in a complete rebuild and you want to make fun of everybody who's drafted a running back round 1 and then draft a running back round 1 to a team that's rebuilding. Like, that doesn't make sense. But Atlanta is my biggest dark horse, I think, so far. And I was 3 for 4 on my dark horses last year. The parameters for my dark horse is a team that didn't make the playoffs and isn't being talked about. That's why, like, the Lions are a dark horse to me. They're the odds-on favorite to win the division. Atlanta, all the focus is on the Saints and Carolina. Nobody's talking about Atlanta. Atlanta quietly has probably had the best offseason in that division. Like, yeah, you could say Carolina made a move for their franchise guy. But you don't know if he's a franchise guy. We know that Jesse Bates is a good player. We know that Chris Lindstrom is a good player. Like, we know that Atlanta retained and got a lot of good players, and they have weapons. And Desmond Ridder, who I think isn't that bad, probably is the second best quarterback in that division. As crazy as that sounds, because there's Baker, trash. A rookie, probably Bryce Young, and then Ridder and Derek Carr. So it's probably Derek Carr, and then day one I would say it's Derek Carr, Baker, Ridder, and then rookie, because I can't really put a rookie in there at anything but 4. And then I would say by like week 8, there's potential for it to be. There's really potential for it to be Young, Ridder, Carr, Baker, but I think more realistically it'll probably be Carr, Young, Ridder, Baker. And I think with the defense they have and their ability to run the ball, like they made Tyler Algier. People think Tyler Algier is like a really good running back. That's how well Arthur Smith designed the scheme to run the ball. You insert Bijan, that is going to win you at least 3 more games. And like, let's not forget that you were a game away from winning the division. Like, it's not like you guys were like complete trash for your division, which is a big deal. Like, being able to win the division is how you make the playoffs. You put Bijan in there, he's going to win you games. 100% he's going to win you games. Bijan's probably a top 5 pick if this draft was 6 years ago. Like, just because the positional value of running back has deteriorated doesn't mean they still don't matter, especially for competitive teams. Like, I think if you're a competitive team, like, you have the freedom to draft whatever you need wherever you want. It's not the best strategy, but it's not bad either. Washington at pick 16, Christian Gonzalez. They need a corner really bad. Although there is a connection to Deonte Banks, and it makes me wonder, would they pass on Gonzalez for Deonte Banks? I truthfully don't think they would. I think they go Gonzalez, and then I think we see a small run on corners here. The Steelers are going to take Porter. Actually, no, I lied. I think the Steelers go Darnell Wright. I really think the Steelers go Darnell Wright because the gap between Darnell Wright and the next best right tackle is gigantic. So I think the gap between Joey Porter to the next corner is pretty big, but the next corner is still very good. Like, it's either Cam Smith, probably Emmanuel Forbes. This corner class is just so deep. Like, it's so deep that I think taking a tackle in a more shallow class is smarter than taking the D-back, in my opinion. But I could see it go either way because the Steelers are also like love the bloodlines, all that stuff, blah blah blah. Lions at pick 18, Deonte Banks. I think that you got your edge rusher in round 1. You're still going to get a top tier corner in the middle of round 1. I think that, we took Tyree Wilson. Aiden Hutchinson has a buddy up front now, and now you have Deonte Banks to replace Jeff Okudah, who's going to be a very good player. Crap. I could have went Joey Porter. I forgot. I don't know why PFF has some of these players. Like, I think Joey Porter probably goes before Deonte Banks, but I really think you're splitting hairs there, and it's preference at that point. Tampa at pick 19. I think they want to trade back. But I'm trying to think of, like, who would trade up for a player here. Okay. Let's do this. We're going to have I've done that before. I was going to say the Chiefs. We're going to have the Cincinnati Bengals trade up with the Bucs. Because I think the Bengals know that they're a few pieces away. Oh, shoot. And with Broderick Jones still being here and you desperately need tackle, you're probably going to cut Alex Kappa. Oh, wait, no, they just traded for Orlando Brown. But it still works because you could trade up for Joey Porter and finally move on from the plague that is Eli Apple. And this still would be a very good move for the Bengals because this is a very solid win now move. You have a plug-and-play corner who's going to bolster your secondary and make you much more competitive in the playoffs. And it's a deep tight end class. Like, I keep hearing people say, go tight end, go tight end. You can. I know they brought in Dalton Kincaid for a visit, but, like, you could take Sam Laporta or someone else in round 2. Like, this is probably one of the best tight end classes in a very, very long time. Seattle at pick 20. I think they want to go offensive line here, and we're going to take O'Cyrus Torrence. Best guard in the class. I think that Steve Avila can come off the board before O'Cyrus Torrence. Wouldn't shock me. I've been saying this all along. I don't understand why people think Steve Avila is strictly a second-round pick. Chargers at pick 21. I think that this is Zay Flowers. Personally, I think Zay Flowers is what this offense needs, and I think that Zay Flowers probably plays more snaps on the outside than Jordan Addison will. Although I will say I think there is a connection between Jordan Addison and the Chargers, not because USC to Chargers in California. I think it's more of Jordan Addison's wide receiver coach that recruited him at Pitt, and then went to USC, and Jordan Addison followed him, and then I think he got a job with the Chargers. So there could be ties with him wanting Jordan Addison in LA. And it would make a lot of sense for Justin Herbert to have a weapon like Jordan Addison. But I think Zay Flowers is probably the better player. I think they're very, 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 very close, though. I really do. The only player I think is not as good as everybody thinks is Quentin Johnson. I think Quentin Johnson is getting drafted this high because of what we think he is, not what he is. And what I mean by that is what he put on tape. Anyway, pick 22 is the Ravens. They're all in on making Lamar Jackson happy, which is why I think that Quentin Johnson could come off the board here. But I think that the Ravens, this is the thing, though, the Ravens are very good drafters, but they can't draft receiver for some reason. So it makes me think they might go Quentin Johnson. But we're going to go ahead and take Jordan Addison here instead. I think it's the smarter play. I think he's a better receiver. He's probably going to play in the slot a lot more than the outside of the NFL. You're only going to have OBJ for probably a year or two max if you extend him again. But at least a year, probably at most a year. But anyways, Cardinals at pick 23. You still need everything. You need tackle, you need edge. I think this is where Nolan Smith could come off the board. But also Broderick Jones. But I really like the idea of Lucas Van Ness here to kind of play that J.J. Watt role in that defense. I think that edge has higher positional value than definitely, I said an edge and a tackle. But it's tough because you could go Broderick Jones. And Broderick Jones would be a bad pick because I think he's going to need a year to develop. But I think that defense, you brought in a defensive head coach. He's probably going to want to address the defense in his first draft, fix his side of the ball first, and then go out and, fix the other side that he's not adept to. But anyway, Jaguars at pick 24. I think this is where Broderick Jones would come off the board if he's still here. I don't know if he falls this far, but it makes a lot of sense for Broderick Jones to come off the board. They just got rid of Cam Robinson. And you have Walker Little there. You don't know what you got on him, but I think putting another first-round tackle, another first-round offensive lineman in front of Trevor Lawrence, there's no avenue where you could look at that and say bad decision. Titans back on the board at pick 25. Titans do need everything, man. They do need everything. And it doesn't make sense for them to take Michael Mayer here. But I think he's got to come off the board at some point, and I don't even know who the Titans have rostered on their tight end room. If they have a serviceable tight end, Titans fans, correct me in the comments, but I really don't think they do. I think trading back, getting picks, and taking a player like Michael Mayer, who is probably just going to be a solid player and help your team, is a very good option. And in my opinion, I would take Michael Mayer over Dalton Kincaid in any circumstance because Michael Mayer can catch, but he's a very good blocker. Dalton Kincaid is not the best blocker and is a great catcher. So, Michael Mayer probably stays on the field longer than Dalton Kincaid does throughout the span of a game, just based off of what they offer. Dallas at pick 26. I see a lot of rumblings of them taking a tight end. I think Peyton Hendershot and Jake Ferguson are very good players. I think they did great last year. They don't need a tight end, in my opinion. Definitely not a round one tight end. Nolan Smith is interesting here. But I've seen a lot of links of them to Jahmyr Gibbs. So we're going to take Jahmyr Gibbs. We're going to have two running backs go in the first round. Buffalo Bills at pick 27. We are going to take Steve Avila and fix that interior of the offensive line because it's really, really bad, and we got to do something for Josh Allen. I was going to say Joe Burrow. But, like, you could go receiver here, but I think that at pick 27, I probably would take Quentin Johnston, but it's so hit or miss with him that I think I'd rather just get the guaranteed prospect than Steve Avila, and you could just take a receiver later. Bucks at pick 28, this is where they trade back to, and I think you're looking for cornerstone pieces here. Anton Harrison makes a lot of sense, especially because you're probably going to put a rookie quarterback behind that line in just a year from now. Or you could take a flyer on Hendon Hooker, but I think you're going to be so bad that it doesn't matter. So I wouldn't do that. Because I think you would rather take Drake May or Caleb Williams over Hendon Hooker. Pick 29. I'm going to go with Quentin Johnston. This is where he comes off the board. The Saints need to get weapons. They need to make sure they win that division. They need to do everything they can to win now. You got Chris Olave, Quentin Johnston. You got a good receiving, and Michael Thomas. You got a very good receiving core all of a sudden if Michael Thomas stays healthy. Eagles at pick 30. You just signed Quez Watkins. Not Quez Watkins. Olamide Zaccheaus, which low-key was a really good signing. I would go Nolan Smith here. I don't think Nolan Smith falls as far, to be honest, but I couldn't find a spot to take him. I think he could definitely go to the Jags or at pick 24. That's also a really good spot for him. But I didn't. So maybe in the predictive one on Wednesday. The predictive one is coming out Wednesday. Last mock of the year. Well, it'll come out Thursday morning. I'll record it on Wednesday. But Chiefs at pick 31 to round out this draft. They need a tackle. They need receivers. Do they really need a receiver, though? Like, Sky Moore was a second-round pick, and Kadarius Toney was a first-round pick. Like, they don't really need receivers just because they haven't played a whole lot yet. I think Dalton Kincaid makes sense. Emmanuel Forbes makes sense. I think Brian Brazee makes the most sense. I really don't see him falling out of the first rounds. There's a lot of teams that are reportedly very, very in on Brian Brazee. And I totally understand why. He's a great player. He just dealt with some crap this season. But yeah, anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this mock draft. This is the second to last mock draft. The predictive one will be out Thursday morning. So keep your eye out on that. And then my positional rankings will be up before the draft on Instagram. So make sure you check out the Instagram. But with all that being said, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking out this mock draft, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.